All right, welcome everybody. We're here doing the tailgate with we've got Jack Miller. Theo is on right now. We expect to be joined by JD pretty shortly. But I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening if you're catching this later. But we were just talking with Jack about one of my favorite columns that he writes for the NBC Sports Edge called Strength in Numbers. And, Jack, why don't you give us just kind of a quick idea of what that's about and, what you're trying to accomplish with it?
Yeah, so basically I just try to recap all the stats every week that I think are important or actionable for the next week, because every week there's a lot of stuff that matters, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't. So basically I just try to give what I think matters and then add some context to some stuff that doesn't matter, some of the more fluky stats, and just look at more of the usage and utilization type stuff as opposed to the more noisy stats.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes out on like Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm remembering right then. And I like it because it's just so, it's a nice little, quick reminder of what happened and, just kind of takes a good forward look at the look behind, if that makes any sense. Like you said, the stats you really need to pay attention to and the stats that can be a little bit noisy.
Yeah, it's helpful for me too to make sure I don't miss anything, because it's hard to pay attention to everything. So just kind of writing it and looking over everything on Monday and Tuesday is helpful for me as well.
Yeah, for sure. And what's kind of the way that you go about writing that column? Are there particular things that you're always taking a look at that maybe most people don't, or that what sorts of things do you like to do for that one?
Yeah, so a lot of it is from PFF because they have a bunch of great data on snaps, routes, basically all of these stats that don't really show up in the box score. And then I like to use RotoViz too. And then a lot of it is honestly, on Twitter, if I see a tweet that I think is good, I'll just I like copy and paste the tweet into the article so that it shows who tweeted it, and then I'll just rehash what they said in the tweet, and so in some regards, I guess it's kind of like an aggregation of everything I see, in addition to what I also find on my own on PFF and stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's very succinct. I mean, it's hard hitting. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, thank you. I like writing it, so.
Yep, for sure, and it shows too. Yeah, and you've been kind of all over the place too with your writing, haven't you? I mean, over the past 6 months, I think I've probably seen you on at least 4 sites, maybe 5.
Yeah, RotoViz for a long time, a couple years, and then I've done some betting stuff for 4for4, and then I do some betting stuff for ETR now, and then most of my fantasy writing now, I guess, is at NBC Sports Edge.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff, and you should guys make sure you're checking out Jack's writing everywhere. Especially though the stuff that he's doing right now on NBC Sports Edge, ETR, and did you say you're still doing 4for4?
Not really anymore.
Okay. All right. So the ETR and NBC Sports Edge, definitely the best place to catch them. So we were talking a little bit pre-show. You said you were putting the unders on DPJ. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What's the thought process on it, and what is the under right now, over underline?
Well, it was at. I actually don't know what it's at right now, because Odell wasn't expected to play the whole day, right, with the shoulder, but then, an hour before kickoff or whatever, he was looking good in warmups, and now he's officially active. So DPJ bumped down a little bit. So, but even before that, the last couple of weeks, his targets per route run have just jumped, and I kind of think that's more of a fluke, because he's always been a guy who has not gotten a ton of targets for how many routes he run. But with his targets, obviously he does very, very well. He's an efficient player, gets a lot of downfield targets. But last week, he had 105 yards, but 55, 60 of them came on that Hail Mary. So the line might have been a little bit inflated because of that. And then with Odell now active, he's bumped a little bit down the depth chart. But yeah, that was pretty much the logic there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I had not checked recently to find out Odell was active, so that's going to change a couple of my lineups.
Yeah, I mean, kind of surprising, honestly. Like, I feel like the whole day it was, Odell's not going to play. He wants to, but he can't, and then now he is. So
this is pretty much what we do on Thursday Tailgate, Jack. We talk to a guest and then we frantically go double check and triple check our lineups, for 15 minutes. And oftentimes the guest is doing the exact same thing. So that's pretty much a new tradition on the GOAT District. Perfect. We also talked a little bit about Javonte Williams. We're all big fans of his. Do you see a breakout game tonight, or are you tempering your expectations?
I don't know if I think it's still going to be the same split. I think he should have a regular day for him, which is pretty good. 12 carries, a couple targets. But the Broncos seem really committed to using both Melvin and Javonte in a 50-50 split, and they're splitting everything almost evenly. Like a lot of the time with these splits, you see, one guy's the early down guy, the next guy is the third down back, but the Broncos are literally just splitting everything almost like by drive. Like Melvin gets a drive, Javonte gets a drive. So
yeah, you see Javonte in the 2 minute sometimes now too, which is I think pretty promising for him long term.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good news.
Yeah, and that's jumped over the first couple weeks. It was all Melvin there, and now Javonte's actually getting some of those snaps and running a lot more routes. So that's definitely good to see.
Yep, for sure.
Because I know coming out of college, he was like a really good blocker. So he definitely I think should have trust from the Broncos coaching staff on those passing down snaps. So good to see that materializing lately.
Yeah, I think it would we've all everybody who drafted Javonte was kind of hoping that there'd be this big split where, he'd take the breakout and eventually get all the volume. And I think people are still really, really hoping for that. How do you anticipate Jerry Judy coming back in this offense? Do you think he's going to return to, alpha status, or do you think it's going to be more of a, kind of a chopped up target tree?
I personally think it's going to be chopped up. I know Judy was dominating the targets in week 1 before he got hurt, but Sutton's looked really good. Air yard share among the best in the league. Like I think he might be top 3 or something in the league in just raw air yards. So I don't think Sutton's just gonna make way for Judy and Judy's gonna be the alpha all of a sudden. I kind of think it's gonna be both of them. But I also think both of them are just really good players, and so we'll see if Teddy can sustain both of them, but I don't think it's a knock on Judy to say that him and Sutton are going to share wide receiver 1 duties. I just think both of them are really good talents who deserve better quarterback play.
Welcome, JD.
Hey, guys. I figured I'd come dumb it down a bit and raise the average age up a bit. It was looking a little low. How's it going, Jack? Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Sorry to crash the party. I was actually listening for a bit, and I was like, do I even go on right now? This is great. Dan's just killing it with the questions, and no, you guys are doing awesome, man. Just keep going. I'll just be in the background.
Right. Now we gotta have our JD fix. So, Jack, what any teams in your fantasy football empire that are looking especially good right now, or that are especially troubling this week with buys or anything like that? Any fun decisions you've had to make this week?
For buys this week, I'm in some trouble in a couple of my leagues. Last week was God, I don't even remember what team it was, but I was forced to start Gainwell in a league because my running back situation was so dire, because Elijah Mitchell was on bye, Damian Williams COVID, and so everyone just was unavailable, and so it ended up being Kenny Gainwell, and he got 0.6. He got 1 point. I somehow still won in that league, but it was rough, and this week's rough too.
Those are the best wins. The ones.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, I made it through.
I had a Gainwell start, and I did not win the week. My Gainwell start. It was like it was brutal. It was a team that had CEH went down, then Damian Williams went down with COVID, and then I plugged in Gainwell was all I had, and it was a tough one, really tough one.
Yeah, that was not great, and it was such a perfect matchup. Like I was like trying to convince myself on Thursday, like Buccaneers, like pass funnel, like they're gonna be passing a whole bunch, and then he had like one catch or something, one target maybe. I don't know. It wasn't good.
The Philly offense is just hard to predict anything with Philly these days. They'll give Sanders work and then go away from him, and it looked like Gainwell was going to take a step forward, and then he's complete nothing. So I don't know. It's a tough offense to gauge right now.
Yeah, and it's not a good offense. Although Hurts somehow still manages to score like 25 points a game every week, which is awesome because I have a bunch of Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same. Yeah, it's great. You just leave him right in your starting lineup because he's going to be basically, top 5 pretty much every single week.
Yeah, he has a week under 20. It's great.
Yeah, and the thing is, like through 2.5 or 3 quarters, you're just like, oh man, this is it. This is going to be the game that he just sucks.
Yeah.
And then somehow here he is, with a couple end zone runs.
I had I forget what it was, but I had like something last Thursday, and so at halftime, I had to leave. So I like when I left, Hurts had like 4 points at halftime, and then I checked my phone later at night, and he had 25, and I was like holy, like wow.
Yeah, those are the ones you just don't even want to turn on the game. Do something else, watch a different game. Don't check your scores, and just wait until the fourth quarter and then see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that I heard you on this summer was on Dwayne McFarland's pod, which he's been on the GOAT District a few times.
Friend of the show.
It was a very absolute friend of the show, and you had a very interesting take that there really were not too many RB1s, and a lot of guys kind of got pushed up, and it's almost like a there was maybe 6 or 8 real RB1s, and then there was like that group of like guys who should have been dead zone guys that got pushed up. How are you feeling at this point in the year with your RB predictions and just your general look? Probably pretty confident based on the hit rates of all these Cooper Kupp types, Deebo Samuel types.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, like Najee is crushing, and he was, I forget his ADP RB 13 or so, and so there are definitely like some hits that I wasn't as much on when I probably should have been, but I think for the most part, like Clyde hasn't been great, Gibson has been fine, like a lot of these guys have, although to be fair, like it's not like the alternatives are crushing either. I mean, Ridley and Hopkins have not really done what was expected of them either, so really that whole range kind of just underperformed.
Yeah, I thought it was just a very, very good way of looking at things. And one running back that you were on was, well, you were on ETN as well, which I think would have been interesting if he was playing based on the way the Jaguars are running their offense. But Swift was a great call. How are you feeling about him? He's just Mr. Garbage Time, just crushing it week to week when the Lions go behind. Do you think that continues and he's an RB1, or what's your expectations for him moving forward?
I think he's an RB1. He's getting just so many targets. Like the passing game usage is among the best. And then last week, at least, we'll see if this continues, but he started to take more of a hold of the rushing share from Jamal Williams, because early in the year it was Jamal Williams was like dominating carries almost compared to Swift. And now Swift, at least last week, kind of had the edge in that area. So if that continues, I mean, obviously, like you're not playing Swift like for the rushing, but it'd just be an added bonus if that continues. But I think the receiving usage alone and just how many targets he's getting, the Lions receivers are so bad. Like he's going to continue to just get crazy amounts of targets. So yeah, I like Swift.
Yeah, and I think it was crazy how basically towards the end of the draft season, like the mid second round to the mid third round ended up being a total wasteland. A lot of the players going in there they've either underperformed or gotten hurt or, some combination of both. I mean, you can pick out like Justin Jefferson and, maybe Jonathan Taylor was going there some of the time. CeeDee Lamb, you can't be too disappointed with him overall. But, other than that, I mean, like Kittle, Keenan Allen, Barkley, Pitts, Chubb has been good. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mixon, Cooper, even McLaurin has been a little bit underwhelming. So there's been a lot of underwhelming players from that range. And then it seemed like, like the third, fourth, fifth rounds, that's where all the gold was this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in the third, fourth, fifth. I was like a big Calvin Ridley fan, and that he fits into that mold of players who just have not performed. Although, I mean, the targets are still there. So I'm hoping and I'm thinking it will turn around for Ridley, but probably not to the extent I thought it would in August. But that whole range was really just has not worked out the way we hoped.
Yeah, we talked about Ridley earlier this week. It'll be interesting to see how he's used coming out of the bye, and he also missed the London game. The ADOT was low, compared to what he was last season. We were all pretty bullish on him having a bounce back coming off the bye. So it'll be interesting to see because he was really, really pushed up. I mean, we saw him going at that that 1-2 turn in some of the high stakes drafts towards the end of the summer. So a lot of people are really banking on a Ridley comeback right now.
Yeah, I still think like the usage is encouraging on a market share level. He's looked pretty good. So it really just comes down to the Falcons offense. And I just think even if the Falcons offense isn't anything special, which it's not, just like the volume should be enough to make him not a complete bust. So I do think better days are ahead for Ridley for sure.
Guys, if you're in the chat, drop the cues and smash the like, smash the subscribe. We got a question. We got to go to the chat. We got our buddy Wheeler in there. He's always good for a few. One of the top rankers out there in Fantasy Pros. And ML, who's been in here before. Start Rashad Penny or Latavius Murray, guys. We'll go to our guest first, Jack.
I'm thinking maybe they're dead even this week.
that's ugly.
That's dead even, not in a good way.
That's an ugly tie. That's that pink and yellow polka dot tie right there. Theo, where are you at?
I mean, I would probably go Penny just based on the fact that we know what Murray is. It's the mystery of Penny.
Yeah.
And Murray's hurt too. So
I was going to say, is Murray is he playing for sure?
No,
I don't think Latavius is going to play.
Yeah, I think he's probably misses as well. But if it was everything being equal, I'd probably still think about Penny just because I don't know. Devonta Freeman looked pretty good last week. I mean, he's got more juice than Murray right now.
Wheeler's got a question with Freeman.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oof, this is a tough one. Dearness Johnson or Devonta Freeman this week, Jack?
I think I'd go Dearness. I think Felton is mostly just. I mean, Felton hasn't even been playing running back. Like Felton's been playing. I saw a tweet. I think it was Ian Hartitz who said Felton has played 2 backfield snaps all season. I think Johnson is just going to dominate carries. He should get 1 or 2 targets hopefully. And yeah, I don't think Latavius is going to play. He was a DNP today, I think. So it's going to be Le'Veon, Freeman, and Tyson. And that's probably just going to be an even split. So I think Dearness, just based on who you can project for, I think, significantly more volume.
Dan, you guys agree?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think you've got to, just go with volume there. Freeman may be a little bit more likely to score a touchdown, but then maybe not. I mean, there's just, that backfield could go so many different ways. And, we could see the resurgence of Tyson Williams this week. So,
yeah, I'm going Dearness on this. I'm going Dearness, and Jack nailed it. I mean, how many running back snaps is Felton really going to be able to handle? So I think you could see, Dearness Johnson get a ton of touches. So whatever that's worth, I think he's got the guaranteed touches. Devonta, I'm hopeful. I've actually picked Devonta up on a few waivers. I'm hopeful he can become a consistent weekly guy, but I think this week Dearness is pretty safe to see 15 touches, 12 to 15 touches, maybe more tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking more into the Penny thing because I'm looking at Alex Collins's. Like, is he gonna play? Is Penny like gonna be the RB1 like by default?
Wow. I don't think he makes it past Q1. He'll be out by the second quarter with some kind of injury.
First tackle.
Guaranteed. Yeah, I was as hopeful for Penny as anyone, but I mean, I've seen it way too many times. I don't think I even have any shares left. I think like you look in the last 2 years, I probably had him all over my dynasty teams, but I just give up on the guy, man. He's like a paperclip. Like you touch him and he's hurt.
I mean, they talked him up in the preseason. They've held on to him despite busting, and the guy is back now, and he was ahead of Alex Collins until he went down. So, and now Collins is banged up. It's kind of a perfect storm. They want to run the ball all the time. I'm kind of optimistic for Penny. He's let us down so many times, but it's been a wild season, and I could see it being Penny just takes over this week, and it'd be
kind of nice to have something new, like a new piece in fantasy land to kind of
right.
That offense needs something right now.
Have we seen practice reports out of Seattle as of yet? I know they're playing on Monday, so they would have started practicing today, and I didn't get a chance this afternoon to look. Do we know about Collins?
Collins did not practice today. Pete Carroll said he has a chance to play, which is not
okay, whatever.
Not overly encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah, that's if Pete's not wildly optimistic, then
it wasn't Seniors Day at Flapjacks or whatever.
Right.
Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Pete Carroll says running back Alex Collins will practice today. Damn, exciting.
Did he?
That was 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking. I thought Collins didn't practice today. That's what NBC has.
Okay. Well,
I trust NBC way more than I do the 90-year-old coach who should be in a home right now.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and Latavius has back-to-back DNPs, so
yeah,
there's a good chance that decision is made for you between Latavius and Penny.
Who's got some tough lineup decisions on the screen right now? Jack, do you have any, or Theo? Dan, I already know ours. I mean,
let me look around.
I have a lot of tough lineup decisions. It was more of how much, when Dan and I spoke today, it was kind of how much exposure do we want to tonight's game. It's Jack
unless it's
was talking about the weather, and it's an interesting game. The one kind of wild card credit to Dan is Keenum's gonna sling it. He'll take some shots downfield. So that could either lead to some turnovers, or that could lead to some long completions that could change it up a little bit tonight. So I don't know. Sometimes when the game looks completely horrible, it ends up being a very exciting one for Thursdays. And sometimes when we think it's going to be exciting, it's very boring. So I don't know. It's on paper, it's a game where you could just game pass it tomorrow and avoid yourself 3.5 hours. But I will suffer through it tonight. But yeah, it's a lot of it's how much exposure to tonight's game. I have plenty of Dearness Johnson. We went over it. I got a lot of shares of him last week. The second waiver wire run, I got a lot of dollar Dearness Johnson. So I have him starting some places. A few places I'm keeping him on the bench. I don't want to be totally exposed. I don't have high expectations, but I think that he could give me a 15-point week. I think his downside is I get like a 10 to 12-point week. I don't see him going nuclear. I think that the one wild card would be, like Jack said, how many do we hear Felton's going to get running back snaps. But what if he doesn't, and they just don't trust him enough to do that? And Felton, Johnson actually does get the third down back work. That could be kind of the wild card for him, just a pure volume play. And I am starting Odell in the league. A few places he's on my bench, so not much changes lineup wise from this game for me.
Even if Felton does get like backfield snaps, I don't think he's gonna get. I don't think he has a carry this year, so I think at least the rushing workload should be safe with Johnson. And then so I think Johnson is a solid play. I think he should do pretty well tonight.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to, Theo and I were talking before the game, should we try to jam DPJ in there? But that was before the news came out about Odell playing. So, if Odell goes, then DPJ is basically a no-fly zone for me. But that does make an interesting question, as long as I feel like OBJ is not just going to be, like a
he's a decoy
or whatever.
I'm calling decoy.
You're calling decoy, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. This could be the Odell gets a couple of deep shots.
The Keenum, you see, like Keenum. Should we start Keenum or Baker?
Are they that far apart? Are they that far apart? Is my thinking. I'm not a big Baker guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a little bit easier to expose Keenum. And defenses kind of have a little bit of a book on him now. And Baker is, while he's less exciting at his best, he's probably a lot better than Keenum at his worst, and that's probably what matters most to Cleveland is, who can be better at their worst, because they're going to plan on, just trying to game manage their way through it. So I do think Keenum's a heck of a backup. That's a great thing to have in your back pocket, for days like this. But you're probably going to want Baker starting.
Dan had a fling with him in Minnesota, so he's
that's right.
He's still living off of that.
Hey, I mean, the Minnesota
for sure
that would not have happened without Keenum slinging it. So. It was a fun game to be at, and it was a fun play to watch. I mean, you've never seen a stadium just like go totally quiet for about 0.2 seconds while everybody just went, and just the air almost sucked out of the stadium when everybody was breathing in to start screaming. So it was pretty wild.
So I wanted to get Jack's opinion on Justin Fields. Do we have any hope that it seems to me this is that we saw some steps forward last week, and now he has on paper a matchup where he could potentially put up a really nice fantasy number, based on the game flow against Tampa. Do you have any hope for Fields becoming on that streaming level, or is he a guy that people can move away from and just cut?
I think you could stream him, but I do think there's better options, and I'm still optimistic long term because as a prospect, he looked so good, but it just hasn't been that great. The running is not great, and even his passing efficiency is also pretty bad. So I think there's better options for this year at least. And I hate to say that because I love Justin Fields, but even against the Bucs, where they should be passing, I think you could probably do better. Although I mean, if you need to, I think it's such a pass funnel. The Bucs are Brissett threw 280 yards against them, but I think there's probably better options.
You can't handle the truth.
Right.
All right, guys, let me cut in. I said I'd be quiet, but that's not going to happen. So we're halfway through. Jack Miller just crushing the goodness tonight. So guys, smash the like. You see the hat right now. You see the tee right here. Support the show, guys. Go check out ViridianGlobal.com. Just support your other favorite podcasts. You want to get a shirt about your favorite fantasy player, your favorite player, Hawkinson, Gibby. They got some awesome stuff, man. So go check them out, Viridian Global, and check out myffpc.com. If you're not already signed up on the site and playing on there, you're missing out big time. Obviously, we have our partnership with them, but we play a big chunk of our fantasy football on that site. And that's one reason we partner up with them. Jack, I'm going to bring it back to receivers. I've got 3 receivers, 3 names that I think are very interesting right now. I'm looking at one of my rosters, and I'm looking at Tyler Boyd, Brandon Ayuk, who I just bought for a late second, and Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman more just because we saw Hilton come back last week and his production went down. Ayuk, I don't think, is a secret. And then Tyler Boyd, just kind of the forgotten guy recently in Cincinnati. So I want to get your feel on these 3 guys, and then Theo and Dan, because I think, these are guys that you're expecting wide receiver 2 to 3-ish, and you want to know what to do with them.
Yeah, Pittman would be my favorite of those 3. I think pretty easily. I don't think 31-year-old going to be 32 soon. I think within the next month or 2. T.Y. Hilton is too much of a threat. T.Y.'s already banged up again. I think it's looking like
this
he might
young
not play.
buck coming in here, Dan, and talking about the old guys like that. I'm kidding, man.
Oops, but yeah, T.Y. I don't think will play this week, or it's looking that way. And then T.Y. even last week, he did have 4 catches, 80 yards, but he was splitting routes with Paris Campbell before he got hurt, and then Ashton Doolin mixed in some as well. So I think it's still Pittman as the wide receiver 1 there, and then Boyd and Ayuk. I think it's kind of tough to be super optimistic about, because Boyd, with Higgins and Chase both healthy, has been the clear 3rd guy. And his ADOT is really low too. Like, he's getting not that many targets, and when he does get targets, they're like 5 yards down the field. So they're not super valuable. And then Ayuk, it looks like it's just Debo crushing season. So I guess I'd take Boyd over Ayuk, and that's how I'd rank them. But I think Pittman is pretty by like a fair gap. I think he's my favorite of that group.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think Pittman should be viewed as a wide receiver 2. I think that he's a safe guy you can start pretty much every week. I would definitely go Boyd over Ayuk. I think that you know that Boyd is going to be on the field. I think that it just, Cincinnati's not supporting 3 pass catchers like we thought that they would. But I do think Boyd will have a few games, here and there. Just harder to predict his weekly usage. Ayuk, we have no idea if the coaching staff is just going to completely move on from him or not. We keep thinking there's going to be a step forward. Bye weeks are funny, especially with no Kittle. Maybe they made up and you see him out there, but I'm shocked by his season, as we all are. And I think it's just being hopeful to hope for something else coming out of the bye with Ayuk. I'd love to see it, and then I'd be happy to put him back in, but I'm leaving him firmly on the bench.
Dan, Wheeler brings up a good point with Hilton last week in Houston in a divisional matchup, and having that experience and maybe that playing a big factor. But with Ayuk, I mean, I don't know, Dan. I'm a little more patient with receivers and tight ends, and I would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think you're on the right track there. I mean, they spent a first on him last year. He's going to get some chances. If they bury him completely this early, that speaks to, a real problem on Kyle Shanahan's part. More
Dante
than anything.
Pettis says,
you just, you can't just bury players like that. When you spend that much draft capital on them, you've got to give them a chance to show why you spent that capital. So I'm, for that reason, I'm bullish on Ayuk. I'm hoping that they kind of self-scout a little bit. They come up with some ways that they can use him, especially with Kittle out for at least another week. And, Boyd for me is probably the bottom of the 3 right now, just because the volume isn't there in Cincinnati. They're just not getting the number of pass attempts that they need to support all 3 receivers, plus use much chipping in occasionally as well, and the running backs chipping in a little bit. So it's tough for Boyd right now, because if you've got he's a good player, he's a very good player, but if you've got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the same team, it's hard not to feed them first. So I think Boyd is going to be going for scraps a little bit more than those guys. So I would put Ayuk up above Boyd right now, but we'll see how it goes, and definitely Pittman at the top.
Sorry, Dan. I don't know if we were both clicking on the questions, but I'm just trying to get some on the screen there. Let's do like rapid fire with the questions. We appreciate guys tuning in live. So if you're listening to this post recording, make sure you tune in next week live. We're here every Thursday, 7 to 8, pre Thursday night. So guys, Crowder or Mecole? Dan, this sounds like one of our rosters. The Crowder, Mecole from last year and Crowder this year. Jack, which way are you going with the two receivers?
I'd probably go Mecole, just because the total in this game is like crazy. It's like 57 or 57.5. It should just be like an absolute shootout. Mecole still wide receiver 2, so yeah, I'd lean that way. Even though I actually do think Crowder should be. I think he's probably a little underrated right now, because Zach Wilson has just like loved the slot this year, and Crowder, has just taken over that role immediately once he got back, and Elijah and Davis are purely outside. So yeah,
42.5, Theo, the over under on the Crowder game, New England.
Ouch.
I'm going Mecole. Mecole for me pretty easily. I don't want to put Crowder in. I think it's that Pats Jets game could be super ugly. And I think that we'll see some fireworks in that Tennessee game. So I'm Mecole. What about you, Dan?
Well, if I had Mecole, I would be starting him confidently over Crowder. But since I don't have any Mecole on any of my teams, and I do have a couple shares of Crowder, I am starting Crowder with confidence because I don't have any choice.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
So if you're going to have to start him, you might as well start him with confidence, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe it rubs
I love
off.
it.
I don't know.
Well, if OBJ wasn't playing, we could confidently sit Crowder for some upside with People Jones, but OBJ just keeps spoiling the party, man.
Yeah, that guy screws me over at every turn.
Are there
anti-OBJ now?
Big time. Dan is not pro OBJ all summer long.
Oh, same. I traded OBJ for Boyd in a third. Speaking of Boyd, it was my one share, and I was like, I felt dirty. I just want to get rid of it. That OBJ share,
I'll say this: a question for everybody. What game are you most excited for this weekend? Besides, I'll say Tennessee, Kansas City is exciting. It's going to be a lot of points. Take that one out. Is there any other game that you guys are very excited for this weekend in Week 7?
I'm a Colts fan, so I'm pumped for the Colts and the 49ers, man. I think that's who's the lineman they picked up from San Fran last year, the Colts.
Oh.
You guys know what I'm talking about, right? They traded it first.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to that matchup. I like this matchup. I feel like it could go, either way. It's San Fran and Indy. So I'm excited for that as a fan. Not looking forward to tonight's game. I mean, if you're into defenses, I mean, look, maybe you guys are right. Maybe Dan's right. Maybe Keenum just pops the lid and they're it's fireworks all night. I mean, that'd be amazing, but I don't know. I don't see it going that way.
I'm hyped for the Bengals-Ravens game. I think the Ravens are probably going to win, but Cincinnati's kind of a fun story. 4-2, no one expected that. So from a fantasy perspective, but also just from like who's going to win the AFC North perspective, I think that's going to be a really good game.
That was going to be the game I was going to say. I think Joe Burrow's looking he's looking a lot healthier, and to me, it looks like a guy who's going to end the season well. I know there was a little bit of criticism of him earlier, but I think this will be a kind of a big test. They're going to have to keep up with that offense, and I love my AFC North games. I think those are always fun. And then I want to see. I know it's the 6-0 versus 1-5, but you got to be excited for the DeAndre Hopkins revenge game against Houston and him potentially putting up a number. And they've been so balanced. they've been so balanced with what they've been doing with their receivers. He hasn't really had that crazy target game. I think this could be they really feed him this week, and he puts a real number on the Texans, like 150, something like that, and maybe catches 10 plus passes. I would love to see that in the revenge game. It's kind of a sneaky week. There's not too many games on the board that are that excited, so it's more of an individual matchup. You have also the double revenge game with this Matt Stafford versus Jared Goff game.
I'm laughing because these are revenge games, Dan. It's like if you went and got like your big brother who's like a professional MMA fighter to fight like an 8-year-old, because it's like Stafford's going back with the Rams to play Detroit, and then you've got what was the other one? Houston. Hopkins against Houston. He's like they're the hottest team in the league right now going in Houston. So I thought that was funny.
The revenge narrative is also funny with the I'm getting revenge on the people that paid me tens of millions of dollars. I'm gonna get you back.
We got a little Alex Collins update on the screen there while Dan gives us his game of the week.
Yeah, so I as a guy who owns a lot of Rams, a lot of Henderson, a good amount of Cup, I'm definitely salivating about the game against Detroit. I think that's going to be fun. And, but we actually kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I think Washington versus Kansas City.
Or KC,
yeah. That one could be a sneaky amount of fun too. So, if Heineke can get that offense going again, and really who can't get going against Kansas City's defense. So I'll take it.
Wheeler flipping the script here with Goff's revenge game.
Green Bay, Washington this week.
That's what it was.
Green Bay, Washington. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a week off. My bad.
Still a fun one.
Yeah, I'll take it. Who is KC playing? Why was I thinking it was
Tennessee?
That's it. Okay.
I've got Arizona in my survivor this week.
I'm a week behind.
I think the spread is like 1,700 or something like that.
Yep.
Wanted to also pick Jack's brain. Tight end has been such a mess. Is there any tight ends that you're bullish on taking a step forward? I mean, the Freiermuth, the Ricky Seals-Jones continuing. Is there anybody you're super confident in either short term or long term in taking a step up?
I do like RSJ, but I feel like the cat is kind of out of the bag on that one. Like it seems like Washington, like before Logan Thomas got hurt, he was playing every snap and running every route. Now Ricky Seals-Jones is doing that, so it's almost just like whoever. It's less about like it's Logan Thomas and more about the Washington tight end is just gonna run around in every one of Taylor Heineke's dropbacks. So I like Ricky Seals-Jones in the short term. I think he's a very strong option until Thomas gets back. You mentioned Freiermuth. I don't think he's gonna ever be like a fantasy relevant guy this year, but I think long term, long term. I mean, the fact that he's already getting snaps the fact that he's already like the tight end one is very encouraging.
Is bananas. Yeah, like as a like not anti, but like Theo totally sold me on Freiermuth. I owned a couple shares in Dynasty just because of Theo. Like I don't even draft rookie tight ends, but I just laughed because Wheeler threw it on there. And Theo loves Freiermuth, and damn, you nailed it, dude. Because look at him, he's already light years ahead of any other rookie tight end that we've seen in so long.
Yeah, he's definitely a fun long term guy. It'd be I think it'll be interesting to see how he does. Last week he caught 7 passes. I'm just wondering if it becomes a thing. I mean, all we're really looking for is a tight end we can start. And I'll ask you, what's your opinion on the fallout with your expectations for Goddard and your expectations for Zach Ertz as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Goddard is suddenly like a top 5 tight end. Like, he's done well. He's been efficient in the past, and now there's no Ertz. So Ertz was actually like out targeting him before he left for some reason. And I think it's now Goddard's time. And then Max Williams was getting like really underrated volume before he got hurt, and then Ertz is an upgrade there. So I think it definitely helps both of them. I don't think that's like a very hot take or anything, but I think I think both of them are pretty solid options. Although Ertz, I think maybe like his first game, he just got traded like a week or two ago. So you have to wonder like how involved he's going to be, especially since they have so many competent options and it's such a widespread target distribution. But I think like rest of the season, once Ertz gets up to speed, he should be at least like a low end tight end 1 type, which also isn't saying much because it's pretty much like if you're like getting like 4 targets a game, you're like a startable tight end.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
I'm just laughing because I just went to player profiler because I was like, I couldn't remember how fast Max Williams was, and so I'm like, how much can Ertz really, mimic him? And so I go to player profiler, Max Williams, best comparable, Zach Ertz.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
That's awesome.
And it's more like who does Ertz hurt the most on Arizona, and hopefully
Right.
he doesn't just hurt everyone a tiny bit. It would almost be better if one guy got kind of pushed back and it wasn't like steals a couple targets here, steals a couple targets there. I don't know. I feel like fantasy has kind of all been saying that this really hurts Rondale Moore. I don't know. I mean, I'm still pro Rondale Moore. I'll take your Rondale Moore shares rest of the season if you don't want them kind of guy. But it's they certainly won't be in 4 wideout sets as much. I think Ertz will see the field more. I mean, Max Williams wasn't playing a high amount of snaps. He was being efficient with the snaps he got. Do they potentially have a tight end on the field? A lot more would be kind of what I'm looking for with Ertz. And it's a great game to break him in. Again, like we talked about, a blowout type game against Houston. It would be very fitting if Ertz found the end zone for 2 teams in a week.
Yeah. I see ML in the chat said Ertz or Higbee. I'd take Higbee there. We mentioned Dwayne McFarland earlier, and he's had some really good Higbee stats. He's tweeted out recently, and I saw that the Lions are the worst team in DVOA against tight ends. So Higbee, like the Rams, and Higbee's like also in that like Ricky Seals-Jones type where he's running just so many routes, he's getting so many snaps. And it did materialize for RSJ last week, but Higbee's in the same boat where it could just come together any week, and now he's got a matchup against a team that has struggled against tight ends. So I'd go Higbee there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. One game that we haven't touched on, guys, Carolina, New York, which seems kind of like a throwaway game. It's a 3-3 team at a 1-5 team. Do you foresee the Panthers offense kind of getting back on track, or are we seeing a downward spiral here, Jack?
I don't think it'll be. I mean, I was gonna say I don't think it'll be as bad as it was last week, but like they still scored a decent amount of points. But I don't think like the Darnold we saw for the first few games is the real Darnold. I know there's like the Gase factor and everything, but like I've just never really thought Darnold was like all that great. And I kind of think like the resurgence we saw at the beginning of the year was more of a mirage than anything. So yeah, I don't love the Carolina offense. I mean, I love DJ Moore, love McCaffrey, obviously, but I don't think this offense is going to be high flying or anything.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, one of the most curious things out of Carolina to me has just been the Robbie Anderson experience, where the last 3 weeks he's gotten boatloads of targets, and he's averaging like 1 yard per target. Something like that. I mean, it's crazy, horrendously bad. And, which is really weird to me because with, when both were with the Jets, the Darnold to Robbie Anderson connection was a good one, so that was something I was kind of, banking on a little bit where I didn't get DJ Moore, I would kind of come back and go through and, take a later share of Robbie Anderson, and maybe even double that up with kind of a throwing it Terrace Marshall on there, and trying to get the Terrace to and Robbie Moore or Robbie Anderson combination going, because as we were talking about a couple nights ago, or as you guys were talking about on the Goatcast a couple nights ago, if you'd have told me, and this is what Billy was saying 2 nights ago. If you'd told me that Robbie Anderson was doing that bad, I mean, I'd have been just dancing in the streets for Terrace Marshall. It just seemed like if Anderson was doing that bad, he would just have to do well, and it just hasn't been the case.
Yeah, it really did. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jack. No, I was going to say
the
11 targets for 11 yards is just unbelievable. It's probably the craziest stat all season long, I'd say.
Yeah, that was terrible. I had until like the last drive where the Panthers sent it to OT. He had like 9 targets for 1 catch and 0 yards, and I had like a stat queued up where he was like 3rd all time in most targets without a yard. But then he like had like 11 yards or something, and that stat went by the wayside. But that was like one of the worst wide receiver performances like ever. And he had like drops too. Like it wasn't just like errant throws. Like he dropped like multiple balls that hit him in the hands.
It's
right.
It's a good thing I was on mute there because we would have had a like three-way all at once there. So I'm gonna, because right now we're about 7:54. I know Jack's got some lineups. He's got to go to go powder his lineups. Theo and Dan, I'm sure you guys do too. I know I do. As we come out of this, Jack, remind the people where they can find all your goodness. We appreciate you on tonight for sure. Tonight was just fun. I mean, on the Goat District, we go like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, but tonight we can't do that. But we appreciate you sharing 60 with us. Who's one guy that our audience can go out there and buy right now in Dynasty that you think is a good buy before we close this out?
In Dynasty, I mean, Theo was talking about this earlier, but I'm very optimistic on Rondale Moore long term. I think Kirk is gonna keep his role in the slot because he's actually played surprisingly well. So Rondale Moore would be one of those. Although, I mean, I think everyone that has Rondale Moore is like kind of keen to Rondale Moore. So I don't know. I don't really know how helpful that is. I guess Fields would be a good one because I do really think Fields is going to turn it around.
I like that.
If not, maybe not this year, but I think Fields long term is going to be a really good player. So I'll go with him.
Week 7, guys. He's a rookie. He's a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Right.
Guys, check out Jack. Jack, remind the peeps of the handle and where they can find your articles. I know Dan's a big fan.
Yeah, my Twitter is JackMiller02, and then I write for NBC Sports Edge and Establish the Run.
Guys, go check him out. Follow him on Twitter. I'm sure you already are. Theo, answer ML's last question. He's hogging the questions because his bye weeks are so brutal. So why don't you guys answer his question on the way out and throw a bye if you've got one.
I'll go Jamison Crowder on this one just because he's coming off of a bye and Ertz with the new team situation. The higher ceiling may be Ertz, but I think Jamison Crowder is pretty safe floor play this week.
Yeah, I'd go the same. I'm going to go Crowder this week, and for my bye, I will definitely second Jack on Justin Fields. He's been my QB1 out of this class the entire way, and but since you took him, I'll stick with Terrace Marshall. I mean, I've been pounding him the whole way. I think he's all he needs is a good quarterback, and he's going to be fantastic. So, Terrace Marshall for me.
Guys, follow all 3 of these guys. I'm lucky enough to hang with Theo and Dan on the reg, but these guys drop some goodness. They've been doing this a long time and doing this in a winning style. Wheeler's got one of my guys, Bateman.
Nobody's selling Bateman though.
Nobody's selling Bateman, but you never know. You go in and make a nice offer. But Bateman and Pittman was my OG Bateman when he was a rookie, and I think just that one game, that little hiccup gives you maybe a buying window moving forward because he's not going to be available for a while. I think Pittman's going to be climbing up that, especially as Wentz gets more comfortable. in that offense. And, you know, next year they bring in a serious baller, hopefully. Guys, it's been a blast, man. Appreciate the questions in the chat. Wheeler, ML, you guys are Kyle also in there. Always a blast having you guys around. Theo, Dan, Jack, good luck this weekend. I mean, you know, week 7, it's a tough one with all the buys, but hopefully everyone gets through. And when you win these weeks with all these buys and you're playing like your 5th and 6th string guy, I mean, those are the best wins, right? So you know, embrace it, try to take it down, and we'll check you out later, guys. Good luck.